Hi, we're going to talk about pull-ups. So first, let's talk about a somewhat flawed version of the pull-up that we often see, and then we'll look at some things that might be at the root of it and what you can do about it. So first, let's see Teresa do the less than ideal pull-up. So what we often see is this. So we see that excessive rib flare on the way up, and maybe not even making it to the bar. But let's talk about some things that can contribute to that rib flare. For the most part, that's the lats being stiffer than and overpowering your core. So things we want to check beforehand. So there's two quick things that you want to check before you start training your pull-ups to make sure that your body is in fact ready for those pull-ups. Thing number one, you want to make sure you've got full overhead shoulder range of motion. So a check you can do, set yourself up on the ground, knees bent, feet flat, ribs down, core engaged, and then put your arms straight up in front of you. Exhale and raise your arms overhead without letting your ribs flare up off the ground or your back arch off the floor. If your arms go all the way flat, then we've got good overhead range of motion. In the case here, Teresa's demonstrating the pre-warm-up version that's a little limited, so next we're going to cover some things to help with that. The second thing you want to make sure you have is a good solid hollow body on the ground. So if you can, let's see, if you're hanging out somewhere here, if we were to flip this and you were to hanging that position, it's going to be hard to minimize that rib flare. If your hollow body, however, looks like this, then you're ready to hang from the bar and train your pull-ups. So to begin, you can foam roll your lat, and we're also going to be getting a little bit of the posterior rotator cuff and your teres major and minor up near your armpit, or kind of the back of your armpit. Spend no more than 30 seconds on each side, and then we'll move on to our next piece. Next up, dead bugs. So press one arm into the opposite knee so we get nice core engagement. Exhale and extend one arm and one leg. I'm going to back up a little bit so you get a better view. Engagement through both the arm and the shoulder as you go. Exhale, aiming for full extension. I would start with sets of 8 on either side with a full exhale on each rep. To progress from the dead bug, we'll go for this pullover maneuver. So we've got a nice weight in hands overhead, and then you can extend your legs.
And then.
Maintaining solid core position, so your lower back should not move away from the floor at all. Maintain that same spinal position. Exhaling fully as each leg extends. And then our next progression, if you assume a hollow position on the floor here with your band, and then you can use the band or ideally even a cable column to do pull-ups, but in a horizontal rather than a vertical position. So this way you can practice that whole body muscular engagement through the pull-up action. So now we've done a whole bunch of things which, let's not kid ourselves, aren't going to make your pull-ups better in one day. But ideally, what happens next is we're taking care of all of these pieces and your pull-ups can look like this. Woohoo!